So this is 2.4, part 3. So now in these questions, for these questions, we do have a greatest common factor. All of these will have a greatest common factor that you have to remove, okay? So this is what you do when you do find that you have a greatest common factor. All right, so remember, we always check for our greatest common factor first. And in this case, yes, we will have one, okay? So we're gonna look for our letters first. X, X, no X. So it's not an X that we're taking out. But if we look at our numbers, 3, 21, 36, all of these can be divided by 3. So we're gonna be taking out a 3. So we're gonna write the 3 in front, just like you would when we were just doing those greatest common factor questions. And now we're gonna do 3x squared divided by 3 is gonna be x squared. 21x divided by 3 is going to be 7x. 36 divided by 3 is going to be 12. Okay. Then you take your 3 and you draw an arrow down to the bottom, and we put our 3 here in front of our brackets. And we can set up the rest of our brackets. We're using the letter X, so we know our brackets are going to look like that. And then, other than writing the 3 at the end, the reason we do this with the arrow is because it's super common for people to forget this 3, okay? So you need to make sure you write it at the beginning and put this arrow to have it in your final answer, because you don't want to forget it. All right, so other than that, we now ignore the 3, and we just focus on this like it was a normal question. So we need two numbers that are going to multiply together to be 12. And they're going to add together to be the middle number 7. So what do we have for 12? We have 1 and 12. We have 2 and 6. And then we have 3 and 4. So how can we add these? Everything's positive, so how can we add these together? Do any of these equal 7 when we add them up? This is 13, this is 8. This one's 7. So 3 and 4, 3 and 4. 3 times 4 gives us 12. 3 plus 4 gives us 7. So this first bracket is going to be x plus 3, and this one is going to be x plus 7. And that's our final answer. We have our 3 that we took out at the beginning. Okay. Next one. We look for our greatest common factor. Oh, one thing I forgot. This one, we did not need to reorder. Sometimes you might have a greatest common factor and reorder, so just pay attention to that. So, greatest common factor for this one. So let's look at our letters first. We have H3, H2, H. So there is an H in all of them. So that's one thing we can take out. We know that we can take out an H. And then we're going to look at our numbers. So we have -5, -20, and 60. So these can all be divided by 5. And then because our one with the highest power has a negative, we don't want anything in front of our highest power. So we're going to take out the negative as well. So we're going to take out -5. Okay. So this is going to leave us with -5h that we're taking out. So then we have -5h to the 3 divided by -5h, and that's going to give us just h squared. Next we have -20h squared divided by -5h. It's going to give us a positive 4h left over. And 60 divided by -5 is going to be -12. And then we have h divided by h, and that just disappears. Okay, we write our arrow, and we put our -5h at the end. And because we're using h, we'll put at the beginning of each of our brackets. All right, so now we're going to ignore this, and we're just going to focus on this. So we have two numbers that multiply together to give us -12. that add together to give us 4. Okay, so we're going to write out all of our factors of 12. So we have 1 and 12, 2 and 6, and 3 and 4. So is there a way to combine any of these sets of numbers to equal a 4? So if we look here, we can't use this one. There's no way to combine these to equal 4. But if we have the 6 and we take away 2, that gives us 4. So we have a positive 6, and we're going to subtract 2 from it. 6 and minus 2. So 6 minus 2 is going to give us 4. 6 times minus 2 gives us minus 12. So here we have a plus 6, and here we have a minus 2. And that is the final answer. Okay. One thing to note, if, let me write one here on the side. So let's say you had minus x squared plus 21x plus 36. Even if you just have a negative in front of your x squared, you need to remove that as a greatest common factor. Okay, you can't even have a negative only remaining here. That needs to come out. Okay, so this would mean you would divide everything by minus 1, and you would have the negative out in front. You would have x squared minus 21x minus 36. Okay, so I think there's a homework question like this, so I just want to make sure you're aware of that. Even if it's just a negative, that needs to come out as a greatest common factor. So the last thing we're going to look at are trinomials with 2 variables. So notice here we have an x and we have a y. Okay, and if we look, x, x, nothing, nothing, y, y, we can't take them out. There's no way to factor out either of the variables, so we have to deal with both. Okay, so the first thing still we look for, is there a greatest common factor? Here there is not. Do we have to reorder? And here, no, we don't. In this case, x squared goes first, then the one with 2 variables, because you have 1 and 1 make 2. Remember, you add up variables, and here you just have y squared. So because they're all 2, we're just going to leave them going in this order. Okay? So what do? Well, we're going to start off ignoring the variables, pretending like the y's don't exist. Okay? We're just going to have x squared, 4x, and 21. That's all we're going to focus on for now. So we want 2 numbers that multiply together to give us our last number. So negative 21. And 2 numbers that add together to give us our middle number, 4. So we need to write out what the factors of 21. So we have 1 and 21. And then we have 3 and 7. So how are we going to combine these to equal 4? So 1 and 21 we can't combine to equal 4, but 3 and 7, yes, we can. So if we're going to do 7 minus 3. Okay? And whatever we do at the bottom, we're going to do at the top. So we're going to write out our brackets like normal. X plus 7, we're just going to leave a little extra room at the end. X minus 3. So here is now the only difference when you're dealing with 2 variables, okay? You write your brackets out as normal, and then you add whatever the second variable is to the end of the bracket, okay? So you attach the second variable. So in this case, the y to the second term in each bracket. Okay? That's the only difference. So here we have another one to try. So in this case, first we look, is there a greatest common factor? So we have C, D. There's no letters that can be taken out, and here there's nothing in front, so there's no numbers that can be taken out. If we look, we go c squared, c, nothing. So this does not need to be reordered. So we're going to want two numbers that multiply together to give us negative 42, and that add together to give us 1. Okay? So we're going to write out the factors for 42. We have 1 and 42, 2 and 21, 3 and 14, and 6 and 7. So we want to get to 1. So if we look at 6 and 7, they're only one number apart. So we can do 7 minus 6, and that'll give us 1. So whatever we wrote on the bottom, we have to write on the top. So our two brackets, we're going to have C in the front, and then we're going to have plus 7 minus 6, and then as our very last step, because we have two variables, we'll add the D to the end. And these are our final answers for these questions. I forgot to circle that one. Okay, so now you're going to go to page 92. You're going to do number 8, just the left-hand side. You're going to do number 9, just the left-hand side. And that is the end of section 2.4.